Guys, I'm telling you, man, I'll die in Lubbock, Texas.
This is the most fun I've ever had playing football.
Because Texas Tech is the place to be. It's the new wave of what college football can be.
The only thing that's bad is it took me this long to finally get on the Broadway Shuffle, man.
Welcome to the Broadway Shuffle. Today, we are pleased to be joined live in the South End Zone Field Club by Texas Tech head coach Joey McGuire. Coach McGuire, welcome back to the show, man.
Yeah, this is awesome, man. We're not doing it on Zoom, which is always good. We get to do this live, and we're in the Gary Peterson Field Club. We're really feet away from us, where we take the field, and we're getting so close to take the field. I can't wait.
We're excited, man. Well, we were at the kickoff luncheon today, and you gave a great speech and a great talk, and you had your 2006 Cedar Hill team there. And you guys went 16-0, won the championship. And it just made me think that Texas Tech is unfamiliar defending a championship, but you're not.
Yeah.
How much do you look back on what you had at Cedar Hill coming off of a championship, and how do you apply that to this season for the Big 12 Conference?
Yeah, I think about it a lot. Because that is one of the keys of, how do you defend a championship? Because it's totally different than, people talk about the climb and how hard it is, but stay on top is just as hard because people get complacent. And so, I look back and I think about the moment after that game, and I had the reporter, our sideline reporter was a Red Raider, Emily Jones, and she asked me the question, now how do you handle these expectations? And literally my response was, well, I've been waiting for these expectations. Meaning when you do something like that, now people expect you to do it again. Well, that is a good thing because it adds some really good pressure on trying to do it again. It keeps you from getting complacent.
Yeah. I love that answer, Coach. You're going into your fifth season here with the Red Raiders. You entered in to Texas Tech as a first-time head coach at the collegiate level. What advice would you have given yourself if you could go back and talk to yourself as you entered this job in 21-22? What advice would you give yourself knowing what you know now?
Well, I will tell you, and it kills me that I'm fixed to say this because it was always a deal that I believed in, never assume anything. But if you go back and you look at year one, we had an old team. You had Muddy Waters, you had Tyree, you had, some really, really good linebackers. You had an older Taj Brooks, even though I had him 2 more years. You had Sir Roderick. So you had an old team. And they wanted to win, and they bought into what we were saying culturally so fast that I assumed that the group that was on that team that were coming back really understood what I wanted from leaders. And, so I put some guys in some leadership roles that they were great teammates, which that's what you have to be first. You have to be a great teammate. But they weren't leaders. And so I kind of assumed because it happened so fast, the way the guys gravitated to what we're trying to do, that we had it. Like we had really grasped our culture, and we hadn't. And so injuries played a part of it, but we kind of took a step back year 2. And so I had to go back and reestablish, and we do that every single year. No matter how many times Ben Roberts has heard, this is what the brand is, this is what the player coach's oath is, this is the plan to win, this is what next means. I find ways to say it a different way, but I say the same thing over and over and over because I can't assume that they have it.
Right? Sure. Yeah. Coach, one of the guys who's heard those same things 3 years in a row now is quarterback Will Hammond.
Yeah.
Obviously, coming in as a freshman, there was all the hype about, okay, he's spending so much time at the facility, he's got all the talent in the world. What would you say the biggest difference between year 1 Will to year 3 Will on the field is in terms of his skill set?
I think he's more accurate. I think he also understands, he continues to work on his ball placement. A lot of times receivers, it's still on them because their job is to catch the ball, but a lot of times there's drops because of ball placement or even interceptions. There was an interception against Arizona State, and it was bad ball placement, so it's on both of them. So I think stuff like that. But I think the one thing that he's continued to do that helps him grow is he is a student of the game. Like he really studies at a really high level, which is only going to help him become the quarterback we need him to be.
You already talked a little bit about expectations, but last year I know you talked a lot about the goal was to win the Big 12, which Tech hadn't done before. I know that wasn't easy to do, but at times y'all made it look easy. How do you keep that goal this year and like keep your players hungry week to week and not, jump ahead or overlook it, look to the playoff, whatever it may be?
We're always talking about the reps that we take in the moment are going to help us throughout the season, and so understanding that we have to be where our feet are right now. That's hard to do a lot of times. But then also everything that we do in this moment is going to help us in the future. There's plenty of things that will help this team. We went through a really tough situation, man. I mean, I'm really anxious, and I'm anxious to see how our fans, when they get to see all 4 episodes from Paramount Plus, how they react to the stuff that we went through, because we as Red Raiders, as the Red Raider Nation, we all went through it together, but there was a lot of things that happened behind the scenes that unless you were here, you weren't really going through some of that stuff. And so going back to your question, one reason or one way that I'm going to be able to push the buttons to keep us focused is because of the stuff that we went through in May and in June. And there was a lot of stuff said about this team that really wasn't just. It wasn't. There was a lot of people that said a lot of different things that it'd be really interesting if they were in those situations, would they do the exact same thing?
And to that point with the Paramount Plus series, you seem to be very open to interviews, and Texas Tech does a great job, and you personally, of letting people in, doing interviews. How was it having a docu-series here, filming practice? Did you approach anything differently? Did you reassess how you do team meetings and handle, or was it just welcome, the doors are in, we're just going to let it fly, welcome to Texas Tech?
It's kind of a mixture of both. We knew we had final edit, but we also didn't want to take away from what was going on. We really wanted to show our culture. It will be really interesting because unless you've been to practice or have been around me in the competition moments, you see one person. I am very, like everybody always talks about Coach McCaslin, about how fired up he is on the sideline. A lot of times whenever you see me on the sideline from a TV angle, I'm very calm, but the angles they don't see are the bench angles, like where I'm on the bench and talking to somebody.
Going after them.
Well, there's no hiding. There's no hiding this, right? And so there's some moments. It will be really interesting if they bleep some of the words that come out of my mouth, because, again, Coach McCaslin is much better at that than I am. But, the one thing that I did, and I do believe and did throughout this whole thing, is I believe in our culture. I believe, whenever they asked to do this, that no matter what was happening, did we see this coming? No, but no matter what was happening, it was going to be good for us in the long run whenever you're trying to put a spotlight on Texas Tech and what we're doing.
Coach, this team, you've got a lot of returning coordinators, you've got a lot of returning players, but it's a different team. It's not the same team that trotted out there last year, even though there's some of the same coaches. Be a football nerd with me for a little bit. What are the things that you guys can do this year that you couldn't necessarily do last year that you're excited about?
Well, one, I don't think enough people were talking that, we made the college football playoffs with 2 brand new coordinators, and now we're in their system year 2.
Yeah,
sure. And most of the time people are like, okay, when you finally get your system in year 2 and year 3, you're even better. And so we've got those guys, Mack and Shill, back. It's interesting. I really think that we have a chance to be better on defense than we were last year. I do think from the beginning I've said the production that we had last year is there. It's just going to look different.
Sure.
But there are some things that this team does that we couldn't do last year. We didn't have to pressure, and I'm not saying that we have to pressure, but we have different guys rushing the passer when we pressure. Austin Romaine has a real knack for rushing the quarterback. Corey Platt has a real knack. And then the thing that showed up a lot is just our pass rush games, to where a lot of times you would rush 4 and you would try to keep them in their rush lanes, and you had a guy like Davey Bailey who was going to have 14.5 sacks. And I'm not saying, that Trey White's not going to have that, but there's some stuff this defense does better than last year's defense. And it's deeper. We're going to be able to play, I think, harder and even with more effort than we played last year. And that was kind of the calling card last year, that defense.
Sure.
And then offensively, again, the depth, we played 3 receivers, and Micah was our 4th receiver. If you look at like Alabama, Ohio State, they would go 6 receivers deep. I think we go 7 receivers deep this year, so the depth is a really good piece. And then, as far as I thought we ran the ball well last year, but I think we're really going to be able to run the football. Number one, our running backs, but, our offensive line, we're bigger, we're more physical. You definitely look the part when you look across the board, and it's 6'8", 6'5", 6'4", 6'5", 6'8".
Kind of like this
This
right here.
right here.
Yeah.
All of us right here.
Thanks, Coach.
Coach, you mentioned today at the kickoff luncheon, just when you have better players, you're a better coach.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen that happen here at Texas Tech, not only in the portal, but also in recruiting. How do you marry those two things together, and who would be some young guys that you would say are really pushing even some of the older guys with the talent level of the recruiting classes that have come in recently?
Some of the young guys that, I'm really excited about, I'm excited about Peyton Morgan, Oliver Miles, Malik. All 3 of those guys are playing safety. They're battling right now of who's going to be opposite of BJ. I'm really excited about those guys. Last year, Terrion Grant came in and he was hurt his shoulder, and he played, but not to the level that he can play at. So I'm excited about him. On the other side of the ball, I think we're going to see the best version of Micah Hudson we have ever seen. I'm really excited about like a Chase Campbell. He's a young guy that's really come on. Moose, I can't wait, for this stadium whenever he catches the ball, and, for Moose to catch on, because he is a dude.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you right now, man, it has shocked me if he's here more than 3 years, but LaDainian Guyton is the real deal. I have, in my 32 years, I have never seen anything like it. He is an absolute freak. And so those are some of the guys, and I know there's other guys. Don't want to miss him, but I know that like Charles Anderson's having a great camp, and here's a guy that's 6'5", 279 pounds, that's going to be coming off the edge. And so it's guys like that I'm really excited about.
Some coaches that it seemed like you're pretty close with in the Big 12, Coach Morris, Coach Dillingham, and Sataki. I'm curious if there's anyone outside of the Big 12 that you're either close with or you try to emulate, take things from.
I talked to Coach Rule a lot at Nebraska. He and I, in fact, we've texted each other almost every day this week because, we're bouncing stuff off practice schedule-wise and different things like that. I talked to Jeff Traylor a lot, and then emulate, or as far as take things from, I constantly are looking, because I'm a big, when I tell this, how we're creating our culture, I always try to have some little short video from a coach or an NFL player or something like that. And so, Sean McVay's done a lot of stuff. If you watch any of the social media, he's got some really, really good stuff out there. So I'll use like little clips because they hear it from me. I want them to hear it from other people, other than just me, to help me get that message apart, and so I use those guys. And I want to go back to your question about, like, here's the deal, and I'm not calling any coaches out or anything, but, I'm not one of those coaches that think I put the air in the football. There are some coaches that they think their arrogance actually think they invented this sport. And that was invented a long time ago. But, there's a lot of coaches that get a lot of credit for winning, and you've got to manage egos. You've got to manage 18 to 22-year-old young men. Like, that should be the credit more than just the X's and O's, because a lot of times those same plays that have been run forever, they look a lot better when David Bailey's running it.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, oh, my gosh, this coach is absolutely incredible. I think where coaches don't get enough credit is getting the team to the field, and getting the team in the right positions versus, this guy. I really, the coaches that should get credit are guys that are winning with lesser talent, and maybe they beat somebody they weren't supposed to beat versus, there's a lot of things that go into it, but you definitely don't sit there and say, man, this guy's the greatest coach ever. And, he's got the greatest roster too.
Yeah, you mentioned that about Nick Saban.
Yeah. Well, I love Saban. Saban, what he did at Alabama is absolutely incredible. But, like, I'll give you an example where I always think about it. Like, Belichick should be in the Hall of Fame, but he should be in the Hall of Fame hand in hand with Tom Brady. Because if you take Tom Brady away from Belichick, he's a sub-500 coach. And so players and coaches go together. And I think both players and coaches make a mistake whenever we don't understand. We go together, and we need each other.
Where did that come from with you? Because it does feel like you have such a great CEO style. You're always first to give praise to the donors, the athletes, your other assistant coaches. Where did that get installed in you, and how early in your career did you realize this is about the community, this is about the locker room, about the people in the building, this isn't about me? Because that's something that I feel like you emulate so well with this program.
I'm really a coach's geek as far as, like, I really, my heroes are coaches, and I study a lot of different coaches, and also study, like, the rise and fall of different people. And usually your ego is the reason that you fall, that you think that you did something, that it's a collective group. I think that's part of it. I also understand, man, there's you don't get to where you're getting without the people in the background that deserve the credit, or the people that, maybe aren't in the background or are right in the middle of the fight. Cody Campbell's right in the middle of a fight for us. So without that guy, and Dusty Womble and Mike Wallace, John Sellers, Gary Peterson, and all the Red Raiders, we're not to where we are. And so I want to make sure that I do give them credit. And it's almost like, just when I say their names, I just want them to know I'm acknowledging them and saying thank you.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Coach, you're going into this year with a lot of expectations. I think that's something that Red Raiders, we're really excited about that.
Yeah.
How do you impress kind of not the pressure, but, hey, Adam Trick, you're coming from Miami. Here's what we're trying to do, and here's what we've been building toward. How do you get those transfer portal guys? Hey, here's what we're doing. Here's who Texas Tech is. You're arriving here in January. I need to get you up to speed in 6 months. What does that look like for you guys?
Well, it starts with our strength staff. We have the best strength staff in the country. And one thing why I think they're the best is, you've got a lot of different people that do a lot of different things to try to get guys bigger, faster, and stronger, and there's different ways to do it. But where I think they're the best is they carry my message to a whole nother level. So I can trust that if I go on the road recruiting in January, that my message is being said exactly the way we want it to be said. And I've been in weight rooms to where you've got guys that think they're carrying the message, but they're almost, it's all about what they're saying versus what the head coach is saying. And that's going to end up backfiring, Yeah. And so these guys, they carry it. Dave Martin is a huge part of that.
Sure.
He is our player development. Every single player that comes in mid-year, he teaches the brand, the player coach's oath, the plan to win, and what's next. And the reason he does that is because the first time I start talking about it, I want everybody on the same page. So now we can take that stuff to a whole nother level.
Sure.
So I'm not sitting there saying the exact same thing every time, and Ben Roberts is going, oh, Coach, I've heard this. It's a way to attack it different ways because just for the foundation, they all know exactly what I'm talking about. So that's a part of it. And then I just don't think people understand, the people outside of us, the Red Raiders, they don't understand how special Lubbock is. They don't understand how special this university is, and they don't understand the resources we have. And so Adam Trick comes in, and he's like, I can do what these guys say because everything in this building is to make me a better version of myself. Everything that I have, the way I eat, the way I get to rehab, the way I get to recovery, the way I get to lift, I'm becoming a better version of myself. So it's an easier sell whenever you're saying, look, you're going to come in, David Bailey, and as a whole, you had 14 and a half sacks, but we're going to make sure you have 14 and a half sacks in one single year.
Yeah.
And so that's why, today I talked about it. That's why these guys are playing their best football with us.
Yeah.
It's because of the environment and the culture that they're in.
I love that. Thanks, Coach.
Coach, I think I'll speak for myself, but I'm sure these guys would agree. One of the favorite parts of what we get to do with this podcast is get to know people like yourself, get to know the players. At Big 12 Media Days, we got to sit down with the whole crew that was there. And, man, I had so much fun sitting next to A.J. Holmes.
Yeah.
Is he always that funny? And if so, do you have like a story that you're like, man, the world needs to know this?
Well, I'm going to tell you two of my, and A.J. actually said this, so I'm going to use what he said, but I bring them together. You know, when A.J. Holmes walked in to Texas Tech, he is not the A.J. Holmes you see right now. And so what I mean by that is I think he was a guy that was unsure of himself, that he knew he was talented, but he really didn't know the level that he had to work to be the best that he could be. And so literally the first meeting we had, me coming off the road, we're talking about every single player, how they're doing. And Lance is saying, man, AJ's really struggling. He's having to adapt to the workload and the way we work. You know, and you're like, man, you wouldn't think that. It's different. It's not better. It's different. So it wasn't like they weren't working their tails off at Houston, because I know Coach Frisk
We can say
does.
that. We can
right?
say that.
But it's totally different. And so he was really struggling with that. And I think his personality hadn't come out yet.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden it is. Coach Wood is the exact same way. AJ actually brought this up. He actually, in a player panel with the coaches recruiting, I wasn't in there. I'm never in there, but they told me about it. And he said, you know, Coach Wood has really become the best version of himself because of us trying to bring that out of him too. And it's not the X's and O's, but Coach Wood has a really fiery personality, and you can flame that fire, you know, and make sure hey, it's okay. I need that from you, you know, and you're not stepping on my toes. Where, you know, there's some head coaches that, because of his personality, you might think that they're stepping on his toes, so maybe he holds back. I don't need that dude to hold back. I need him to be Shield Wood. I need him to get those guys playing. And so AJ said that. You know, AJ, man, he's got a great personality, and he smiles a lot, and he's very appreciative. He thinks he's a really good cook. So I'll tell you. So I called him. This is the first day of camp. And I call him. I said, where you at, bro? And he goes, don't we have to be there at 7:30? I said, yeah, but you're usually early. He goes, yeah, Coach, I'm cooking. So he was cooking his own breakfast. So AJ's become a chef, meal prep, and then he's also a juicer. So on Fridays going to the hotel, he always has this juice in this jar, and it's like a beet juice, nothing that I want to drink at all. It's kind of like you and Banana Laffy Taffy.
No, that sounds better. That sounds better. For those that don't know, Coach McGuire came in with a Banana Laffy Taffy, and that's got to be the worst Laffy Taffy flavor there is out there.
Yeah.
I'm fine saying that.
Yeah, that's okay.
Beet juice sounds better than that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess if football doesn't work out for AJ, he can start a restaurant or something.
Obviously, Julian Ladner can't cook because he burned himself.
I feel like AJ is a good example of this, but with the transfer portal, it's easier to get talent in, but it's also harder to keep your own players. I'm curious, like, how you get guys to, like, want to work and earn that playing time. Like, I'm thinking of, like, Quentin Joyner. He could have left and just been a starter somewhere else. Like, do you look for that in players in the portal, or is that something that, like, you instill in the culture once they get here?
You know, I think more, and not bragging on the culture. I think it's more instilling it when you get here, of understanding that as a collective, the better you do, the better you're going to be as an individual. Like, the more, you know, I did this at Cedar Hill, man. You know, you make it to the playoffs, you get to play more games. The more games you get to play, the more colleges get to watch you and see how you react in certain situations. It's the same way here. You know, I don't want guys to leave. And in this world that we're in right now, there's a lot of guys that you know, leave way too soon. And then whenever they do leave, I'll give you a perfect example. It's fixed to, and I lost my train of thought of exactly who it was. But he's a receiver. He went to Florida Atlantic with Kitley. Out of Arlington Bowie.
Number 6,
Kelby.
Yes.
Kelby.
Yeah.
Thank you. I can't believe it. I could see his face, and I couldn't say his name. But, you know, Kelby, I didn't want Kelby to leave, but he had gotten to a point, being a redshirt junior, that he was like, okay, this is kind of who I am at Texas Tech. And we had a very good conversation about that, and I agreed with him. I said, this is exactly who you are, and we love who you are. He goes, well, I want to go be the guy. And I understood that. There's some of these guys that are freshman or a redshirt freshman that have so many people in their ear that they're not ready to leave. And then what happens is they go to places similar, and then they're the exact same dude that they are here.
Sure.
And then they get frustrated. Then they go somewhere else. And then, you know, it's a total different – you know, if you really want to be the guy and you weren't the guy here, then you probably need to go to a G6 school or go to an FCS school. Those are great options, great options. But if you're not the guy here, you're not going to, you know, Ohio State and be the guy. Like that just – it doesn't work that way.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, Coach, we're coming to the end, and you've done such a great job this offseason, I think, handling all the turmoil, everything.
Thank you.
And we're so excited for the season. But we're talking about transfers and adding players to the roster, and so I wanted to end with this question. You've got 4 gentlemen here in front of you, Clayton, Conrad, Zyler, and Brennan. If you had to pick one of us to join the roster and play a position, who would you choose and what position would you have us play?
Well, I'm not taking him. He doesn't like laughing, banana laughing tapping.
I'm out.
So
I'm out.
we wouldn't get along. I feel like you could be a really good deep snapper.
Hey, I'll take it. I'll take it.
And maybe, you know, maybe a slide receiver over here.
Yeah, I can be a little Eric
I don't know.
Morris or a
The
little
deal is,
Cole
I
Beasley.
think all of us would be broken after the first or second day of full contact by this team. Because I will tell you one thing that the Red Raiders should get really excited about. We are even a bigger, more physical, faster team than we were a year ago. We really are. I mean, like, that's not me saying anything. That is the numbers to back it up. Like, if for skill position, max velocity, if you're not 21, I think it's like 21.02, you can't even get in the top 5 of. And then you look at what I mean, like literally, I don't think anybody on the skills below a 20 mile per hour. It's the same thing, 20 miles per hour on the big skill. I mean, the mid skill, it's the same. I mean, Keyshawn Williams ran at 315 pounds, ran 17.41 miles per hour the other day. Like, that is.
It's always
like,
scary to think about a guy that's bigger than you being able to run faster than you are.
Yeah.
Shouldn't
And
work
Got
that
a lot
way.
of those guys.
So there's it should be real excitement about this team.
Yeah, man, we're excited. We're looking forward to the season. We appreciate you taking the time, as
bet.
always, coming back onto the Broadway Shuffle, and we can't wait to watch you guys this season.
All right,
Thanks,
thank you.
Coach.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Coach.
it.
Thank you, guys.
Guys, I'm telling you, man, I'll die in Lubbock, Texas.
This is the most fun I've ever had playing football.
Because Texas Tech is the place to be. It's the new wave of what college football can be.
The only thing that's bad is it took me this long to finally get on the Broadway Shuffle, man.